I'm never going to really ask you about the geometric mean, and I'm not even going to talk to you about the geometric mean. They say let's find the geometric mean. But what we're going to do is, what I want you to understand, the geometric mean between two numbers is you just take the square root of the product. So it would just be 8 times 12. All right? Now what we're going to do is, we're going to not write the square root of 96 and break it down. All right? We're going to practice using the radicals. All right? So the geometric mean is the square root of the product of the two numbers. All right? So what's common with 8 and 12?
4.
A 4. So 4 comes out, and then it would be 2 times 3, right? Which is 4 radical 6. Everybody okay with that? All right. Now, again, the reason why I'm just reviewing is because I know some entrance exams are coming up for people who are doing private school testing, and this is a really good review. All right. So number 2, it would be the square root of 3 times 15. And there would be a common what?
3.
3, so it'd be 3 radical 5. 3 radical 5. All right. Now, number 3, we have 4/5 times 2, and then we do the square root of that. Well, the only thing we have is the square root of 4, which is what? The square root of 4 is definitely 2. So we're going to have 2 radical 2 over radical 5. So everybody take a look at that. Make sure you see that. I could write it as the square root of 2/5. But remember, whenever you have a fraction, it's just the square root of the numerator and the square root of the denominator. The reason why I'm telling you that is because in the advanced world, we're not allowed to have radicals in the denominator. So we say rationalize the denominator by, what do? Multiplying the top and bottom by the square root of 5. That is correct. It's called rationalizing the denominator. The reason, again, why they call it rationalizing the denominator is that a square root is an irrational number. So the denominator is irrational. So I'm going to make it rational by multiplying it by itself. And now I end up with 2 radical 10 over what? 5. 2 radical 10 over 5, and now 5 is considered what? Rational. Go. What do you mean? Okay, so what I want you to do is highlight 4. What's the square root of 4? 2. So then, if I said this was like 2 over 1, 2 times 1 is 2, 5 times 1 is 5. Right? All right, any other questions or concerns? All right, now, again, like I said, I may have one question on the test where it says find the geometric mean, but I'm not going to use the geometric mean as a form to solving these problems. All right, but I am going to tell you this, all right, which is something really interesting. Actually, it's not that hard to prove. All right, we're going to be have a big discussion on right triangles. All right, and I personally would have put this in the last chapter because I think it belongs in the last chapter, because if you take a right triangle and you draw an altitude or you draw the height. Does everybody see I just did that, right? Let me get a different color here. So here is my altitude or my height. Now, what I'm trying to get you to realize is this right here and this right here creates how many right triangles now? We have 3 right triangles. We have 3 right triangles. Does everybody agree? And because we have a large one, we have a small one, and we have a what? A medium one. Now, look, here's what I'm trying to show you. Now, again, if you're going to understand how simple this is, you have to understand this part. If you don't understand this part, then it's not easy, and you'll be all confused. So you have to listen carefully to what I'm saying. All right? This V is different than T. Do we agree with that? So I'm going to mark this with 2. Everybody with me on this? Because they're different. Is it possible for them to be equal? Yes. All right, it's possible, but they're not. All right? Now, if this is a right triangle, if the middle one or the medium size is a middle triangle, I want someone to tell me how many tick marks would this angle have? Have to have. It would have to have what? 2. Do you understand that? Now, why does it have to have two? Because angle V has one tick mark, and this is a right triangle. So those two angles are congruent to another two angles, so that means the third angle has to be congruent. It's kind of like that third angle theorem. If two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third angle must be congruent. Everybody hear me on that? So this has, right up here, now I'm going to erase this. So this has to have two tick marks. Everybody agree with that? So now, TUV would have to have how many? Would have to have one. All right? It would have to have one. It's the same thing. Or TUA, I'm sorry. TUA, thank you. TUA has one mark on it. Does everybody see that? Now, like I said, I tell kids every year, if you don't understand that, then the rest of it's impossible. All right, does everybody see that? So I have now created three similar triangles. All right, I've created three similar triangles. And we're going to write the small one, then we're going to write the medium one, and then we're going to write the what? Large one. And we're going to write a similarity statement. All right, so the small one is on the left. Do you agree with that? So we're going to say triangle TUA is similar to triangle. Now, I'm going to the middle triangle. I started with how many tick marks? Two. So what angle has two tick marks? U. And then then U was the one, so then it would be V, and then the right angle was A. Right, does everybody agree? Very simple. Very simple. Now, from there, similar to the large triangle. So again, I'm still finding the two tick marks for the long triangle, which would be T, and then what? V, and then what? U. All right? Like I said, if you don't see that, you're not going to be able to see much more after this. All right? Does everybody see that? Now, if you can write that, then look at the problems. They're going to be easy. Right? They're going to be easy. All right? Because everything is a what? Everything is a proportion. Everything is proportional. The other thing you can remember is that they have right triangles, but they really don't want you to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But I always tell kids we've been doing that since, I think 5th grade we do it. All right? So you've been doing a squared plus b squared equals c squared for a long time. So I've always tell kids, if you can see a squared plus b squared equals c squared, go ahead and what? Do it, because I think it's easier than trying to figure out the proportion. Is everybody with me? All right. So now I'm pretty confident with that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and skip number 5. And now we're going to get right down to the problems. All right. Now, here is how I describe it instead of using a geometric mean. All right. Does everybody agree there's a hypotenuse to a right triangle? There's going to be a short leg, and there's going to be a what? A long leg. Is everybody with me? Short leg, long leg, and hypotenuse. All right? And your objective now, knowing that 8 and 23, you can figure out X, Y, and Z. All right? Now, how do I do that? Well, first thing is, I'm going to draw this right here, X. Right? Now, I know 8 is given. Does everybody agree with that? So I'm just saying, here's how I do it. Here's how I think the easiest way is. I pick a side of a triangle that's known and unknown. So I have 8 over X. Now, 8 is considered a short, and X is considered a what? Long. All right? Now, can I do the short and long to the big triangle? Can I do the short and long to the big triangle? No, because on the big triangle it would be Y and it would be what? Z. So I would have all of the variables in there. So now what I'm going to do is, I made a mistake, so I just erase it because that's what you're going to be doing. And then I'm going to say, let's try the middle triangle. So what is the short leg on the middle triangle? X. And what's the long one? 23. Is everybody with me? And now to solve that, we just do what? Cross multiply and divide. Now here's where you're going to make a mistake. X squared is equal to 8 times 23. I don't care what 8 times 23 is because I know I'm going to take the square root. And when I take the square root of both sides, it's easier for me to just say, well, 8 is 4 times 2, so my answer is 2 radical 46. Now again, for those of you guys getting ready to take entrance exams, that is an important thing to know. Does everybody understand how I got 2 radical 46? How did I get 46? Because, hold up a minute, the square root of 4 is what? 2. And what was left behind? The 2 was left behind times 23 was left behind. Yes?
So you don't need a number that is like common in both of them. So you don't need so since 4 isn't common for 3.
Exactly right. You're looking for perfect squares.
Right.
You're looking for perfect squares. All right? So now I know that x is 2 radical 46. Everybody agree? Now, do you agree I could just do a squared plus b squared equals c squared from there?
Yes.
All right, but they don't want you to do that. All right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to try to do it the correct way. All right? And just because we want to see the proportions. So now I have this right here. I'm going to now erase, and I'm going to try to write in there 2 radical 46. Okay, so now I want you to be able to see that this length right here is how long? 31, right? So I want to do 31 over y. Now 31 is called the what? Hypotenuse, and y is going to be the short leg. Everybody agree with me on that? Is equal to. Now, let's look at the small. Y over what? Y over 8. Does everybody see that? All right, that's not that hard. All right, so now when we cross multiply again, y squared equals 8 times 31, square root, square root. So now you should be able to tell me that's obviously 2 radical 62. Come on now. 2 radical 62. If you don't see that, let me know. That's why we don't multiply 8 times 31, because then you're just going to have to break it down. All right? So y is 2 radical 62. Is everybody good with that? All right? So now the only one I'm missing is what? So I'm just going to say z over 31. So 31 is the what? And z is the long leg. All right? So now equals 2, and that was the big triangle. So let's look at the middle triangle. Z is the what? Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Z is the hypotenuse. And 23 is the long leg. Everybody agree with that? And so now when I cross multiply, z squared equals 23 times 31. Now what's the problem with 23 times 31? Yeah, they're prime. And when you multiply primes, so somebody tell me z is equal to the square root of 713. All right. Yes? What it corresponds to. That's exactly right. You're always setting it up to what it corresponds to. Now, again, it was just kind of nice because I avoided the 2 radical 46 and the 2 radical 62. Is everybody agreeing that's not that bad?
Yeah.
All right, so let's continue on, guys. Let's check out 8. Let's just do 8 together. All right. Now, I just can't help myself, honestly. Look up, please. Because if I can mentally do something, I'm just doing it. All right, look up. And I'm just not even arguing. Y has to be the square root of 13. Right? I'm not going to ask you to do something more difficult if you can just look at it and say that's obviously the square root of 13. Is everybody with me on that? Because it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. You with me now, right? It's just a right triangle. Y is the hypotenuse to the small triangle. So I just quickly did a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's a mental thing. All right? Now, I'm looking at x. So I'm just going to write down, I have no idea. I'm just going to write 3 over x. And I'm not even sure it's correct. But 3 is considered the what? Short, and x is considered the long. So now I'm doing short and long of the small triangle. Short is 2, and 3 is the long. Does everybody agree? That wasn't hard. So now I have what? 2x equals 9, so x is equal to 4.5. Now look, x is equal to 4.5, so now z has to be what? 6.5. There's no reason to do proportions if you can just do the math. Everybody with me? All right, there's easier ways, trickier ways, and you just get experience. Now, if I wanted to figure out this guy right here, look up h, I would honestly just do Pythagorean Theorem with 3 and 4.5. All right, but it's not necessary to do that. All right, you can just do, look, I don't know why they didn't do that, so in my opinion, it would be h over the square root of 13, and h is the long side, and y is the short leg, right? So equals 3 over 2, right? So if I wanted to, the h would be 3 radical 3 over 2, which we didn't have to do, but I'm just saying they could have easily just put that there also. Do I agree? Super, super easy. And it's always on the SAT, these proportions. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so listen to me. Very, very good question. Come on now. Because I have a short leg and a long leg, right? So it would have to be, now, did we already figure out what y is? Yeah, so we could have done short leg to long leg is, we could have done short leg to long leg. Do you agree with me? We could have done that. It always comes out to be the same. All right? All right, let's go back and check out number 7. Now, for me on this one, I would check out 25 and 6, and automatically what pops into my mind sometimes.
Oh my god, oh my god.
11's not bad.
Oh shit.
Here we go. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. No one will hear, no one will know that's you, Zoe. All right. 25 minus 6 today is 9. Yeah.
25 minus 6
All right.
today is 19, not 11.
So here we go. So I have, again, I'm missing the x. So x and 19. So I'm going to say x over 19. Short leg, long leg. And then that would be 6 over, beautiful. All right. So now we have x squared is equal to 19 times 6. And again, 19 and 6 don't share anything. So x is just the square root of 114. Is that right? So x is the square root of 114. Now, this is what I'm talking about. For me personally, please look up. This is the square root of 114. Oh, it's already as big as I can get it. That's why. So this is the square root of 114. Now, z is equal to 19 squared plus the square root of 114 squared. To me, I just think that's easier. Right? I don't feel like figuring out the proportions. Does everybody agree with me on this? All right, so what's 19 squared plus the square root of 114 squared? Yes. So what's 19 squared? 380, 361? Yeah. Plus 114 is what? How much? So 475. Now when I do this square root, I'm going to have to break down 475. Right? 25 times something. what would that be? 16, 17, right? $4. Yes, it is 19. You're right. So there we'd have z equals 5 radical 19. All right, does everybody see? I just think that's easier. All right, do I care how you do it? I really don't care as long as you get the right answer. All right, so z is equal to 5 radical 19. All right, now we're going to go ahead and knock out y. So everybody's got to look up here at y just to make sure, come on, just to make sure that you know how to do the Pythagorean theorem correctly. All right, the y is the what? Y is the hypotenuse. C, thank you. So here we go. So we have 6 squared plus the square root of 114 squared is equal to y squared. So now I have what? 36 plus 114 is equal to y squared. So y squared is equal to 150 square root. So it would be what?
5 radicals.
Yes, 5 radical 6. All right, is everybody in agreement with that? All right, again, everything is proportional. Everything is proportional. All right, so you guys, here is your assignment, small little assignment. Now look, I had some word problems down here, but you guys have been so good, we're just doing this. All we're doing is this page right here. What time do we get out? How much? 10:45. So we have 15 minutes. So listen, what we're doing is only questions 1 and 2. All right? 1, 2, and 3. All right, because one of them is not a perfect square. And then all you have to do is write the similarity statement for question number 7. And then all you have to do is the ones that are important. The only thing really that's really that important is that if you can do 11, 12, 13, 14, then you understand the math. Everybody with me? All right? No, you have to do 1, 2, and 3 on the top, and most people are already done with that.
Like the top page.
No, nothing on the top, just the second page. All right? Finish up, guys. Good job. You got 14 minutes. Yes. 14 minutes.
I think the other class got 15.